Hey, my name is Alan Shapiro. I'm a science communicator based in Vancouver, Canada, and the chair of an organization called Science Slam Canada. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, I was actually not alive yet, but seeing as how my parents emigrated from Russia to Canada, the Berlin Wall falling really paved the way for my future science communication work. As a child, I wanted to be a zoologist. I loved animals, I loved science, and I figured how better to connect these two than to study the science of animals. What I didn't realize in the process is that most zoology studies parts of animals, studies animal anatomy, studies animal physiology, and once this sunk in, I was over it. So this didn't pan out for me, but I did become a geologist, and so studying rocks is more or less the next best thing. Science Slam Canada is a nonprofit organization that hosts community events aimed at adult audiences where we get scientists, communicators, researchers, artists up on stage to share science in a creative way. The reason we started Science Slam is that there's so little programming for adults around science. And most of the programming that exists really just transplants academic talks and academic formats into community spaces. What we wanted to do is to center science communication and to break down those walls between researchers and the public. What surprised us in doing this is how many skill sets researchers have that just aren't part of the research they do. We've seen scientists dance their research. We've seen artists from the community come up and share their passion for science. So we've really seen these sides of people that their science doesn't necessarily allow them to express. And in the process, seen the engagement, seen the enjoyment that we get from adult audiences who might never have seen themselves as being engaged by science, all of a sudden showing up to shows again and again and again because they're learning and they're being entertained. The wall that Science Slam Canada is working to break down is the barrier between scientific research and the general public. There's so much cool research happening all around us, but many members of the general public, especially adults, might not see themselves as consumers or participants in the scientific process. What Science Slam Canada is trying to do is create a format and create spaces and create venues where adults can show up, be entertained, learn science, and change how they see themselves in the scientific process. What makes Science Slam Canada unique isn't the idea of a science slam. A science slam is just a format that helps science be shared in the community. But what we've done is to shake things up and say, even science slams typically use PowerPoint presentations, and this is a crutch that most researchers, scientists, and even communicators would rely on for almost any audience. And so we've done away with that, and we've replaced it with audience engagement, cranked that dial way up and said, your role here is really to push the ball for the audience, to pull the audience in, and to help the audience take something away from this talk. And in doing so, we see fantastic formats from dances to raps and everything in between. The benefit that comes from that is the perception and the trust. When the public looks at science as a black box that they don't understand, it's really hard to relate to, it's really hard to value, and it's really hard to trust. But when they see scientists on stage, excited about their work and willing to get silly, this humanizes scientists and starts to build connections and conversations. What would my mom and my dad say about this work? I think they just get excited every time there's a YouTube video of me doing something ridiculous, so that's probably what they would say. For us, the work that we're continuing to do is to take our programming and reach underserved audiences, particularly rural, remote, and indigenous communities which don't get a lot of adult science programming. In terms of what keeps me up at night, it's how to build this into a sustainable organization. What started as one event and then a collection of events, how do we turn that into programming that continues to run, continues to grow its reach, and continues to engage audiences all around the country?